big Premier League game this weekend. Arsenal against Fulham, Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern time at the Emirates Stadium. Andy, can the Gunners make it 3 wins in a row to kick off the season, or do you think Fulham have got a big surprise on them? Because I think both these teams had different starts to the campaign. I think Arsenal, the best word to sum them up would be stodgy so far, just doing enough, just kind of defensively doing okay, not really setting the world alight, but beat Nottingham Forest, beat Crystal Palace by 1 goal margin each time. So done okay, right? I think. And, what are your thoughts heading into this game this weekend?
Yeah, before we get to Arsenal, because I think that'll probably dominate a lot of this conversation. Are you really worried for Fulham the way that I am?
A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, two not just bad results, but really poor performances, and the way that they didn't really show up against Brentford at all. Brentford did whatever they wanted to in that game, faced no resistance whatsoever, and I found myself thinking, how did this team finish where they did last season, Fulham? And it was Alexander Mitrovic, and that was essentially it. And Tim Ream had obviously an amazing season, and Anthony Robinson there on the left side of the defense, and they took some chances.
Leno in goal.
Yeah, they rode their luck a lot, though, I think is the point. Because a lot of the players that we're talking about are defensive and defensive midfield type players. And so, yeah, I have some fears about them. They're a couple goals per game negative in terms of expected goals at this point. It's just 2 games in. But they've been roughed around a little bit. And I think Arsenal probably do the same to them this weekend. Stodgy is probably a good British word to explain Arsenal and the way that they've played these first couple of games. Very much in the starting blocks still at this point of the season. I don't think there's any reason to be worrying about the performances or the way that they've started the season. But they are certainly going to have to go up another level or 2 or probably 3 if they're going to, over the course of 38 games this season, actually maintain a title challenge to Manchester City.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think based on what we've seen so far from Arsenal, they do still look like the most likely to push City all the way for the title of the other sort of Premier League giants. I mean, Man United, obviously a work in progress, a slow start for them. Liverpool, same with them, especially in midfield, and the balance is off. But going forward, you'd expect them to score a lot of goals. Dare I say Tottenham? Looking
no, dare you don't.
Okay. Chelsea, again, a work in progress, and the balance is off there.
Yeah.
And then, you chuck in Newcastle to the mix. I still think it's too early for them. So I still think Arsenal are the nearest challengers to City. And again, Kevin De Bruyne's injury for the next few months gives Arsenal perhaps a bit of an opening there to, if they can, once again, open up a bit of a gap on City, because they know, and we all know, how good City are. As soon as it gets to February, March, April, May, they hardly drop any points. That's just the way they are. They're a machine, and KDB will be back by then, of course, a long time before then. But I am worried about Fulham, though, losing Mitrovic, like you said. I think it's a huge blow, and probably one that they dealt with a little bit at the end of last season. But when you actually looked at their results, they tailed off a lot. They went from being in European qualification, kind of the chase, really, and went right up there, and FA Cup and all the rest of it in the latter stages, to pretty much just hanging on to a top 10 finish in the end. They had quite a big points gap to 11th, but just without Mitro, I just don't know. I mean, Raul Jimenez, is he really going to finish off those chances? He's had a rough couple of years of injuries, as we know, and loss of confidence. So I think unless they get in a Balogun, maybe from Arsenal or someone of that ilk, if they've got money to spend there, they need that clinical finisher, because they've got providers, Andreas Pereira, Willian, even João Paulinho when he breaks forward from midfield, and he's back now from injury, which is great news for them. But yeah, I do worry about Fulham, like you said, and I just think that this is probably sums up that they're the strangest team in the Premier League. With the opening day win at Everton, they were battered for most of that game, turn it on for 10 minutes, scored, could have had another, and then leave with a 1-0 win. And they're very hard to predict. So I think that throws up a few issues there for Arsenal, but I can see this being very similar to the opening weekend win against Forest, where they come out, dominate the game. Obviously, Tim Ream suspended for this one, so that's a big loss at the heart of Fulham's defence as well. I could see Arsenal being a couple of goals up, but the big issue I have with Arsenal is that they seem to take their foot off the gas, like they did at the end of last season. Once they get 2 or maybe even 3-0 up, they just leave little opportunities for teams to get in behind them. And I don't know. I like the transfer business. David Raya coming in looks like he could actually properly challenge Aaron Ramsdale. And losing Timber is obviously a blow to a big knee injury early in the campaign. Declan Rice has been superb. Kai Havertz has been okay. I think we've seen that it's a good rotation in terms of the options they've got now in midfield and attack. So yeah, I'm feeling okay about where Arsenal are at. As I mentioned, I am worried about Fulham. So what is your score prediction for this game? Earlier you said you think Arsenal would take care of business quite comfortably. So I'm expecting a big score line here from you.
Yeah, maybe not a big scoreline, but still comfortable. And I like the point that you made there, talking about taking the foot off the gas. It does seem like, and we've seen this the last couple seasons down the stretch to the point that you just made, they don't have that ruthlessness to finish the job once and for all. City get up 2-0. City are going up 3-0 and probably 4-0 and a lot of times 5-0. Yeah. Arsenal get to 2, and then it's 2-1, and suddenly they're scrambling for the final 5 minutes. And so it does feel like they let teams kind of hang around a little bit longer than they should. I can see them doing that against Fulham just because there is a lot of questions right now. I got questions due to injuries at a lot of positions. Right back, left back, center forward. The wings are good, central midfield is good, and so you have a strong foundation, you have a baseline that you're not going to fall below. But in terms of game to game and putting together enough results over the season, we've got some questions there, and it'll be interesting to see if they dip back into the market or not to maybe get in a replacement one of the fullback spots, because Tomiyasu is going to be pulling double duty left and right because of Timber being. It's just there's a lot of moving parts now, I think, still at Arsenal. It might seem that they're one more player away. But for the weekend, I'll go 2-0 to Arsenal. I don't buy Fulham at all. And I see them definitely in the bottom 5 come the end of the season, and probably scrambling just above or below the relegation line.
Well, yeah, I don't know if they have them quite that low, but I think it all depends on who they get in, if they do get anyone in to replace Mitrovic, which they have a lot of cash now to do that. So you would think they're going to make a big move in the final few days of the window here. On Arsenal, really good point. Champions League is obviously going to impact them this season a lot as well. So the fact they've had some of these big injuries early in the season, Gabriel Jesus, Timber, Zinchenko not being available, means, like you mentioned, Thomas Partey's got to play right back sometimes. Tomiyasu's been playing here, there, and everywhere. So I think, some of those injuries coming now before, a month or so before the group stages of the Champions League really kick off. Bit of a blessing for Arsenal. But it's only going to really take 3 or 4 injuries, and then all of a sudden their squad's going to be looking quite thin. So that's the only issue I have with them. But yeah, I'm going for a 2-0 prediction as well for Arsenal against Fulham. That feels like a very safe bet right now. So head over to Pro Soccer Talk at NBCSports.com for how to watch information, live analysis, reaction, video highlights, and much more from Arsenal against Fulham, a London derby at the Emirates. All signs point to an Arsenal win, but it's still early in the season, Andy. So it's been known to be a few upsets over the years at this point in the campaign. So let's see if there's one in North London this weekend.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.